Oh, we are back on WCGO Radio. Thanks for being with me, everybody. I'm Elysabeth Alfano, and like always, you can find me here every Sunday at 3 p.m. Central. I do appreciate you being with me, but of course, if you ever miss a show, you can always say, hey, iTunes, I'd like to get the Awesome Vegans Influencer Series. So you can find my podcast, Awesome Vegans, on iTunes and Stitcher and Google Podcast and all the other places that you might want to find your podcast, iHeartRadio. It's actually everywhere. So if you've ever missed a celebrity interview of mine, or you want more food and tips and tricks in the kitchen, then you can always go to the Awesome Vegans Influencer Series. I'll also say, kind of exciting news, I have a new show that has launched, the Plant-Based Business Hour, and that is also on Stitcher and Google Podcast and iTunes, and I'm really happy to be there. So Spotify. So if you want to catch all the business news, because as we know, plant-based foods aren't just the solution. It's also big money. So if you want to get in on some of that, then you want to know who the players are in the space. And you can always listen to my Plant-Based Business Hour podcast. Okay, but I would like to finish this show with my top 10 tips for food that every vegan should have in their pantry. And if you're not yet vegan, that's okay. You can kind of tiptoe your way in. But here are my top 10 recommendations. Okay, every kitchen should have tempeh. What the heck is tempeh? Tempeh is fermented soy. It is whole bean fermented soy. Could not be any better for you. One package of tempeh is about 50 grams of protein. So do not be telling me, where do vegans get their protein? Vegans get their protein where everyone gets their protein, and that would be plants. Spoiler alert, meat does not in and of itself have protein. Animals don't have protein. Animals get protein because they eat plants and microbes. That is what has protein. So just get rid of the middleman, since the middleman is meat, which causes meat pandemics. It's true. Meat pandemics come from meat. So tempeh is a great source of fiber and a great source of protein. Seitan. What the heck is seitan? Seitan is if you take wheat flour and you brush off all the fiber, you're going to be left with the protein in the middle. We're back to protein. You're going to be left with the protein in the middle. And that is what seitan is. And it's very chewy and it's got lots of protein. Not going to have a whole heck of a lot of fiber because you just wash that away. But it is a great food in terms of, very much like tempeh, it's a blank slate. You can make it sweet, you can make it savory, whatever you want to do to it. It is your palate to play with. So that's where spices come in, and they're so handy. So you want to make sure that you get tempeh and seitan in your kitchen, and you can find them at any grocery store. These are not like weird track downable things. They're very easy to find. Okay, I think everybody knows that if you want to be healthy, you have got to work beans and lentils and legumes into your diet. In fact, on this show, I interviewed Dan Buettner of Blue Zones fame, and he says of all the centenarians that he has researched around the world, those who have a cup to a cup and a half of beans in their life every day, they have an extended 4 to 5 years extra of life. So you want to be one of those people, right? Of course you do. Okay, so beans and lentils, and I'll just say lentils. Ooh, so tasty. Ooh, tasty, tasty lentils. Nutritional yeast. Oh my gosh, nutritional yeast. So if you're afraid, like, oh gosh, if I go vegan, maybe I'll miss cheese. Well, nutritional yeast is your answer there. Not to mention that it's so super healthy for you. So nutritional yeast is a deactivated yeast. It's very high in protein. It has lots of B vitamins. I like to take air-popped popcorn, and then I spray on my next number. I think I'm at number 5. I spray on my next number. So spoiler alert, Bragg's amino acids. I spray on some Bragg's, and then I scatter on some nutritional yeast, and it is so gosh darn good, and a very cheesy and very great popcorn snack that is really very healthy for me. So I love that. Okay, Bragg's, I sort of gave it away. Bragg's amino acids, you want that in your life. It's just a great seasoning, a great flavor. Air popped popcorn is not the only thing that it's good for. So I cook a lot with it. I marinate mushrooms in it, and then I grill them. We're coming up upon grilling season. So you want to make sure that you have Bragg's amino acids in your kitchen. Now, my next tip, I got to give credit where credit is due. My next tip I got from Dr. Gregor, the fabulous Dr. G himself. I was telling him that on my very favorite breakfast item, which is very high protein, very high fiber, it's raw tofu. Yes, you can eat raw tofu. It's raw tofu, hemp seeds, fresh berries, a half a cup of raw oats, and a tablespoon of date syrup. And I was using maple syrup, and Dr. Greger set me straight. He said, oh no, date syrup is going to be much more of a low glycemic food. So it's going to translate into sugar slower. And also it has some fiber in it. It's just dates and water basically that have been stewed together. So a great baking thing, but also for me in my breakfast, because I make that power bowl that has almost 20 grams of protein, my tofu power bowl every morning. And so it's got date syrup. Again, tofu, very much like tempeh or even seitan, it's a blank slate. You could make it savory, you could make it sweet, whatever you want to do with it. So that is very fun. And you just want to, when I buy date syrup, I buy it in like huge containers. I don't, it's like a quart, a liter of date syrup. I get it on Amazon.com and I do not hold back. So hopefully you guys can get your hands on some of that as well. All right. Next on my list. Okay. I kind of gave this away too. You can see where my snack sense is. Popcorn. Popcorn is a whole food. So if you're not going to smother it with olive oil and you're not going to smother it, of course, with butter, then air popped popcorn is a great way to go. It's a whole food. It's a whole grain. Ultimately, we really do want to stay whole food plant-based as much as we can. Of course, we treat ourselves and we have, Beyond Meat and Impossible when we feel the need. But, you don't want those things 3 times a day. You want some whole food plant-based in your life. And popcorn does it for me. So I feel like I'm cheating, but I'm not really cheating, which is, just how awesome is that? And I do have to say, like when my partner's out of town, I'll just say, oh, okay, huge bowl of air popped popcorn for dinner. And that'll do it. And I mean huge. Yeah. With Bragg's and Nutritional Yeast. So I really do like my popcorn. Okay. Next is sweet potatoes. Now, a lot of people say to me, oh my gosh, if I go vegan or I try to go plant-based, maybe I'm going to miss a lot of things. And maybe my life is going to be not abundant. And I say the exact opposite. When I was eating meat and dairy, it was like ham and cheese sandwiches all the time. So I was consistently relying on the same kinds of foods. But here, when I discovered a plant-based lifestyle, I was like, oh my gosh, why didn't I eat asparagus before? Why didn't I eat eggplant before? And sweet potatoes is the huge discovery. So I used to have sweet potatoes once a year on Thanksgiving. What a waste. So they're so incredibly good for you. This is another thing that Dan Buettner says in the Blue Zones, that if you want to be healthy, in particular, purple yams are really, really good for you, but as are the orange sweet potatoes, just your run-of-the-mill sweet potato, very good for you. So versatile. So you can barbecue them, you can spice them up with a chili pepper, you can go the taco route, and with Mexican seasoning, I like to do black bean sweet potato tacos. So I'm going to tell everybody, if you're interested in these recipes that I'm talking about, hit up ElysabethAlfano.com. You can do so much with sweet potatoes. Of course, you can add cranberries and walnuts and make a sweet potato salad that is very sweet and very good. But I really like it. Again, I'll throw out my website, ElysabethAlfano.com, because number 1 and number 2 on the list were tempeh and seitan. And I have a great tempeh recipe to make stuffed Italian peppers. It's actually the recipe I did on the fabulous Amazon Prime cooking show, New Day, New Chef, the show that really is sort of taking the world by storm, a very popular show. So that's episode 5. And then seitan, I like to do gyros. And I'm making that on a cooking show coming up as well. So these gyros and seitan recipes are really getting some good play. So you want to get yourself some of that. Okay, coming in, oh my gosh, already coming in at number 9. Tofu, because I told you it's what I have for breakfast every morning. It's raw tofu and it's just a blank slate. It's got lots of protein and it's good for you. It's a little bit more of the processed version of tempeh, which is, not processed at all. So it is a little bit processed, but really hardly at all. It's an excellent food. And I have raw tofu every morning for breakfast, which is just so fun. And that recipe also, my high protein, high fiber power bowl that I do every morning, that's also on ElysabethAlfano.com. Hit up the recipes tab and then hit on breakfast and you'll find it. Okay, so I would be horribly remiss if I didn't say you got to have whole grains in there, So you might like quinoa, or you might like brown rice, or you might like farro, or you might like bulgur wheat, or whatever your grain is. And we like to switch it up, so we like to not just rely on brown rice. We like to do other stuff. Just make sure you're getting your whole grains. And I do not want to hear, but carbohydrates. Yes, you want whole grain carbohydrates. These are good for you. These things are actually very good for you. And sometimes when we make brown rice, for example, or quinoa, whatever, we will use vegetable stock or mushroom broth. Mushroom broth is really my jam, quite frankly. We'll use mushroom broth, and you can make mushroom broth yourself. Just the next time you have mushrooms around the house, you put them in water and you boil them, and you're going to have this great broth, and it won't have the salt that a packaged mushroom broth container would have. And you can make your rice in mushroom broth, and that's going to make it very, very savory. Okay, my sort of baker's dozen, or whatever it is, my number 11 of my top 10. So my extra bonus is of course, you want to have leafy greens. Okay, so I'm just giving you the tips and tricks in the kitchen, but you're not going to avoid or not have leafy greens. You're going to get your kale and your lettuces and your broccoli and your Brussels sprouts and all your good foods. Of course, you want to have as many leafy greens as you can, but these are my top 10 tips for everything a vegan should have in their kitchen. Of course, there are probably more, but those are just the ones that I'm giving you today. Again, be sure to hit up my website, ElysabethAlfano.com, if you want more tips and tricks and recipes. And then, of course, go to iTunes for the Plant-Based Business Hour or the Awesome Vegans podcast if you ever want to get some of that. Download and subscribe. I sure do appreciate it. And otherwise, I will see you next Sunday right here on WCGO, because together we're taking back our health and the health of the planet. Oh, you guys are so incredibly patient. Thank you for letting me do a little bit of pre-taped radio. Carol says, I love tofu, but usually cooked tofu. I'll tell you, Carol, that I really like raw tofu. Works great for me. I do it every morning because in the morning, I'm not really a morning person. I'm all about let's get this party started. I got to get out of here. I got to move. I got to do other stuff. So it's been really, really fun. So I'm putting in, what were items 1 through 6? Okay, quick recap here. We're doing the Cliff Notes. Tempeh, seitan, beans and lentils, that's counts as 1. Bragg's amino acid, date syrup. That's it. That's 1 through 6. Hi, everybody. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm learning a new program today. So popcorn, yes. Oh, walrus lettuce. How nice is that? Oh, what a kind comment. Thank you, Ushi. What a nice note. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Elise Beck, I appreciate it. Esperanza, what a gorgeous name. Ushi Oat, thank you for being here. Linda Morocco, thank you for being here. I really love everyone chiming in. You're very kind to let me do a pre-tape of my Sunday radio show right here live on Jane Unchained, because Jane Unchained is so fabulous. Thank you all for watching. I hope I mentioned everyone's name. Carol Zarbano. Thank you, everyone, for being here. And I will be back tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific time with the Plant-Based Business Hour. Until then, everybody, stay safe. And together, we're taking back our health and the health of the planet. Thanks for all you do.